Now, what if I can't find a theme to even start with? What if I'm still struggling? Well, there are a couple of techniques that we're going to look at just to start with. First of all is pretty much what we use there, using your imagination. Look at language and images in the poem and think about what ideas come to mind. And yes, it is about using your imagination a little bit, using a bit of creativity. Now, I know in many cases creativity is a hard thing to do for a lot of people, and certainly if you're nodding your head saying it's really hard for me, then the simplest thing to do is start to just think outside the box a little bit. Start to think about, if it doesn't mean this, what else could it mean? And so, in the case of that poem, if it doesn't just mean death, what else could it mean? Well, we start to look at the two people and the reasons why they died. And when I was interpreting that poem, that's the first thing I looked at, the reasons why they died. And then I started to look at that fact that their graves were being covered up. And that these values, these things that they live for, were, hang on, they're no longer important. And so by putting all those things together, I get the idea that death erases the value of life. And all these things that are really important that they died for are suddenly meaningless. They're covered up, their names are covered up, their identities, you can imagine their skeletons rotting away, all those things, and it ultimately means nothing anymore. You may also study the poem's title, and this is something that's a bit more unique to poetry in that look at the title and the text and look for any correlations between the two of them, so any way that they link. Titles in poetry are very important because they do sort of start to represent what a key idea of the poem is. And certainly in the case of that poem, the word death is in the title, so you've got a very basic theme in the title itself. And the last thing is up to you. So as poetry is subjective, don't worry if your opinion is different from others or if your ideas are different from others. And certainly don't worry that when you're writing your response you may not be correct, because the alternative is you may be correct. And through your construction of ideas and through your argument, you don't have to be possessive of the fact that other people have come up with different things from you, because poetry has a variety of answers. So don't spend too much time obsessing, and I know this is what a lot of students do. And certainly through my experience, I often get the question, what if I'm wrong? Well, yeah, you're definitely going to get wrong if you write nothing. So that is why I say that it's really important that poetry is a subjective thing, as with a lot of other texts, so you can interpret it a number of different ways. When I was looking through some second opinions of this poem and the way I interpreted it, I came up across a number of different interpretations. And I don't think any of them was waking up at night thinking, oh my God, someone else has said something else about the poem, what if I'm wrong? They're not staying up awake at night thinking about that, trust me. So those are the three key pieces of advice I would give for anyone who is unable to still at this point come up with any sort of themes or start to generate their own ideas about what a poem may be about. But anyway, that's about it for complex themes and ideas. So I certainly hope that you get something out of poetry now, and that it helps you to start to pick up the pieces of what poetry is trying to represent and give you a stronger idea about what the value of poetry is and ultimately what poetry is trying to do. But otherwise, until next time, I'll see you later.